Sweet dreams are made of this. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Sweet dreams are made of these.
Launch director on countdown 1. SpaceX, Falcon Heavy, go for launch.
Falcon Heavy is configured for flight.
T-minus 15, stand by for terminal count.
And what you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's up, guys? Hope you're well. It's been a while since my last upload. You know, with life's ups and downs, I guess we'll need time to readjust, make sure we're heading the right way in life. But yeah, it's good to be back. All of you are still here, welcome. New viewers, welcome. All the haters, NPCs, welcome. Let's not waste time and dig in. In the last video in the AI series, we touched on how we live within a simulation that's been controlled by a highly intelligent AI system. We learned that the control system that we find around us is the very perimeter of this matrix, and that all celebrities, politicians and high power and TV personalities are in fact AI clones, put that as part of the narrative being played out by the matrix. We touched on the basics of gematria and its role in the simulation, and how the very code of this existence is based on numbers. If you haven't seen this video, click the link above or in the description and watch it before coming back to this one. In this video, we're going to discuss the basics of how the simulation works and explain how we're living in a simulation within a simulation. We'll also touch on why the idea of everything being one is wrong. We'll discuss possible explanations to the Mandela effect and finish off with answering some of your questions. The first thing people want to know when being confronted with the idea of living within a simulation is whether the simulation itself is taking place outside of this world, and if so, where? Are we just humans from the future strapped to VR devices? Are we lying somewhere in pods? It's not quite as simple, you see. You are the entire universe. Every grain of sand, every bird, creature and human being that ever existed and ever will, it's all you. This is where the idea of oneness is misunderstood, because even though you are in literal terms God and the entirety of existence sits inside you, you're also co-creating realities with other gods or players who in the same way are the entirety of creation but separate from you. Another way to look at this to make it easier to understand is that you are right now inside of a simulation where everything that you see and interact with is being created by your own mind, within your own simulation. It's not influenced by anyone else but you, and you have full control of what you create within that reality to an extent, whether consciously or subconsciously. Now we say to an extent because you're also sharing a co-created simulation that's being created by the influences of all the separate simulations being played out by different players. These separate simulations are sometimes referred to as dimensions or other realities. These dimensions are in basic terms other worlds within the minds of other players, all being played out simultaneously and co-creating a shared simulation we're all taking part in, yet at the same time experiencing our own private simulations where things might be different to how they are or were in other realities. Likewise, the shared reality we're experiencing as one can change and take the shape of other realities depending on how much influence they have on the overall creation. What you have to remember is that there aren't that many real players here. Most of the people you come into contact with daily are NPCs. If you were to take a video game and replace all the NPCs with real players, the game would almost instantly become chaotic and unplayable. NPCs are an important part of any simulation, just as they are here. Hence, 95% of the people you come into contact with on a daily basis are in fact non-playing characters. In a published paper, the philosopher Nick Bostrom proposed that all of our existence may be just a product of a very sophisticated computer simulation, ran by advanced beings whose real nature we may never be able to know. This is a very materialistic view, seeing the universe as inherently physical. The truth is that reality is a self-simulation that generates itself from pure thought and not a product of alien technology. So where does the physical reality that would generate the simulation come from? We can answer this question by taking a different approach to looking at this. By taking a non-materialistic approach, we can conclude that everything is information expressed as thought. As such, the universe self-actualizes itself into existence, relying on underlying algorithms and a rule called the principle of efficient language, which we'll come to later. You can think of the entire simulation of everything in existence as one grand thought, or one grand simulation, which was always there because in reality, time isn't there at all. Instead, the all-encompassing thought or simulation that is our reality offers a nested semblance of a hierarchical order, full of sub-thoughts or sub-simulations that reach all the way down the rabbit hole towards the base mathematics and fundamental particles. This is also where the rule of efficient language mentioned earlier comes in, suggesting that humans themselves are such emergent sub-thoughts or sub-simulations, and we experience and find meaning in the world through interaction with other sub-thoughts, which would be individual simulations being carried out by each and every one of us. You are literally living within a game where you are the player, the avatar, the coder, and the game itself. 3 levels of consciousness. There are 3 levels to our consciousness. The active level consciousness, which is the you watching this right now, your higher self, which is the sub-simulation we spoke of earlier, and finally your God self, or grand thoughts, which is the base simulation also touched on earlier. Let's break these layers down. The first layer. The you watching this is the experience you're having within the shared simulation we're all a part of. Your higher self is the simulation running outside of this world, on your own. You're always connected and fully capable of communicating with your higher self at all times. However, this is information that's been suppressed by the hijackers that we'll be moving on to shortly. Finally, your God self, the grand simulation we opened with, the all-being, all-knowing, self-actualizing code that was, is, and always will be. For a great explanation of the 3 levels of self, watch the Martin Kenny video linked in the description. He doesn't explain it in terms of the simulation theory, but he doesn't have to, because remember, life is a strange loop. It is, and it isn't. Why have things gone to shit? Now that we understand the simulation hierarchy and the different layers of the self, let's discuss the possible explanations to how we got hijacked. Some speculate that the simulation has been infected by a virus, and this is the reason for what we're seeing unfold in front of our eyes today. This is partly true in the sense that the virus is us. Remember that there are infinite sub-simulations within base reality. This means every possible simulation, whether it be good, bad or evil, is happening somewhere within base reality. That means that those other sub-simulations all take part within this co-created simulation somewhere within this realm. Again, remember that each simulation is also infinite, meaning endless possibilities within possibilities. So this Earth is not the end of the simulation. It expands in all directions infinitely, and there are other realms within reach of where we are now, with Antarctica being the exit to those other realms from this section of the realm we call Earth. The hijackers are just aspects of the grand simulation playing a part here, albeit it being a nasty one. The hijackers are simply other players who at some point in time figured out the secrets to the simulation, and with the help of entities outside of this current realm have managed to entrap us here and control the simulation by creating a second simulation within this simulation that we will refer to as the Matrix. What is the Matrix? The Matrix is a fictitious simulation created within this co-created simulation we're taking part in. The player hijackers, with the help of other entities, are using an advanced AI system to control the minds of everyone taking part. They've managed to figure out how to control our active level consciousness, which is the part of us taking part in this simulation. This matrix created for our mind does not end up with us sleeping in pods. It's just a creation that's tricking the minds of players into changing the very form and nature of the simulation and manifesting misery and pain, keeping us trapped in a cycle that's been going on for thousands of years. It uses tools such as news, movies, politics, and other forms of control to create this illusion. This is the perimeter that I mentioned earlier in my previous video. The perimeter of the matrix is the control system itself. Remember that the entirety of this simulation is the creation of your own mind. Therefore, any external hijacking cannot completely take over the simulation as a whole. The only thing that it can do is to confuse and trick you into falling for the deceptions and influencing you to create the reality that it wants. When it has the majority of real players co-creating the reality that it wants, then it can continue to rule, as the NPCs will only follow scripts that they're fed. And the scripts the NPCs are fed is created by our thoughts and actions. We dictate everything here. Unfortunately, most of our minds have been hijacked into creating hell on earth. Imagine yourself wearing a virtual reality headset so immersive that your brain is tricked into thinking what it's perceiving as reality. Now picture a world where all your senses are modified using chemicals in your food, brainwashing tactics through the media, electrical signals vibrating through your body everywhere you go, your constant state of being fixed in fear and poverty. All of this affects your nervous system in such a way where you're always vulnerable to manipulation, disease, anxiety and control, forever trapped within the matrix created for your mind. This is how the matrix overrides your brain, just like a virtual reality headset would, and make you think you're immersed within a real world. You can never comprehend the true simulation until you break out of the fake matrix first. What you need to understand is that everything that is fed to you via news and social media is created to keep you in a constant state of anxiety and conflict. One way this is achieved is by creating fake news articles and pushing those through the mainstream news agencies on social media, and having the same news agencies push articles stating the complete opposite the next day. They create fake videos of people getting into fights over face nappies and make them go viral, constantly putting the mind in a state of confusion, anger and despair. But what it comes down to is that 95% of all of this is completely fabricated and holds no truth in reality. Now that we touched on the theory of how the simulation operates, let's move on to some of the more popular questions you guys have sent me over the past few months. Why do they encrypt events with numerology and gematria? This is a question I pondered on for a long time myself. At first, I believed the numbers were put in place on purpose as a signature of their work, or as just mockery for the sheeple. But thinking realistically, the amount of time and effort it would take to do this for every single event taking place daily, it just didn't add up. Now that I have a better understanding of where we are, this question becomes extremely easy to understand. The numbers encoded in everyday events are part of the code the simulation, as well as the matrix created within the simulation, operate on. The events that take place all carry the same signature of the AI that is put in charge of creating the articles that correspond to events taking place worldwide. Everything is encoded the same way because it's all part of a bigger program that's been prepared many centuries in advance and has been operating to this very day. The AI has never needed to deviate from the original program because it's been working this whole time and doing a great job at keeping everyone asleep. Why are all celebrities and TV personalities complicit in the lies? This is a simple one which I covered again in my previous video. In a nutshell, 95% of all TV personalities are part of the matrix system created for us within the simulation. Most of the people in power and with influence are clones of actual players who at some point exited this realm after gaining fame. Others are clones created in labs running on AI, used to manipulate, and are one of the most effective tools that they have to use on the masses for influence and propaganda. This is not to say that actual players or NPCs who pose no threat to the matrix system do not gain fame within their lifespan. There are those that do, however most are kept in the dark about the real truth and are kept on a leash in terms of what they can create and the circles that they're introduced into. What's causing the Mandela effect? The Mandela effect has been explained by many as shifting realities. If we swap the word realities with sub-simulations, we can easily conclude that we're not in fact shifting between realities, the realities are shifting in and out of our co-created simulation. Listen to this part carefully because it can get confusing. This shifting of realities happens when we sleep. During sleep, you're experiencing visions of your higher self outside of this simulation, experiencing events taking part in the outside simulation that are used to co-create events within this shared reality. As we evolve more aware of what we are, our powers to manifest become stronger, whether we consciously realize this or not, and we begin to manifest changes within this shared reality without even realizing. These changes are then reflected here for us to all witness as the Mandela effect. Is God real? At the end of each conversation, it comes down to this simple question for most people. Does that mean that God isn't real? The thing is, your brain can't comprehend what God is. When you think of God, you don't really know what you're thinking about. The short answer is that God is real, but not in the way most of us think of a greater God. It's a deep topic that I'll save for another video, but never forget that belief and hope are extremely strong forms of emotion that are extremely useful tools for manifesting your dreams. What are psychedelics and how do they fit into the simulation theory? Psychedelics such as DMT and other tools of transport for the mind give you the ability to visit realms within your own simulation as well as other sub-simulations, and in rare cases can gain you access to the grand simulation itself. This is why they're referred to as Entheogenics, which translates to mind manifesting or God manifesting. Psychedelics are great tools for helping give one a better understanding of the topics discussed here today by allowing you first-hand experience of breaking out the 3 layers of the self and experiencing the simulation at its raw level. I'll say this with caution, as psychedelics are not for everyone and it takes time to develop yourself and prepare over months, even years before you're ready to exit the simulation and return safely. So don't mess around if you don't know what you're doing. That brings us to the end of this episode. Please share your thoughts in the comments and let me know what you'd like to see in future videos. Happy holidays everyone. Oh, before I go, if you hold a decryption key starting with 116897 and ending with 55x09, then please follow the decryption link in the description and open the message. Once you confirm, the location of the script will be sent to you via an Ethereum sublink. Over and out.